Well, last year, if you happen to notice, we started a series of segments on everything electric. We talked to one of the hosts of Everything Electric on YouTube, Jack Scarlett from London. We also did a big segment on the Everything Electric convention. It was here this past September, and one of the people we met, who is also one of the hosts and presenters on Everything Electric, we got talking with her, but she was very busy, and we were buzzing all over the place, but we finally got her on our show now for the new year. Imogen Bhogal joins us. Happy New Year, Imogen.
Happy New Year. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us on a Friday night where you are. We appreciate that very much. I've got to talk about what I really enjoy what you guys do on that program and some of the things that spills into the podcast and everything. We'll get to all that. I want to give a little background of you and how impressive that is. You hold a background in engineering, having studied at Oxford. You began your career as an aerodynamics engineer at Jaguar Land Rover. Talk about how you go from that, obviously well qualified, to being one of the worldwide known hosts of Everything Electric.
Do you know, that is probably the single most frequently asked question that I get. And having lived it, it definitely does make more sense than perhaps my CV looks like to an outside observer. But yeah, I've always been fascinated by engineering and specifically the automotive industry, because I don't think there are many industries where you can have something that impacts so many thousands of people's jobs, skills, geopolitics, supply chains, etc., etc. But at the end of it, it creates a consumer product that people feel very emotional about, that you can have it in a film, and you can tell so much about a character in a movie depending on what car they drive.
Right.
The fact that it can bridge those two things is absolutely astonishing. And obviously I have a very technical background, and that's what led me to be an automotive engineer. But I think what I swiftly discovered is that I am much more interested and have much more fun talking about all of this stuff than perhaps optimizing a rear bumper by 1 millimeter or so. So I'll leave that to the experts. But yeah, I've found myself being very busy sort of talking and showcasing the latest and greatest things that are happening across the worlds of sustainability, cars, clean energy, etc., etc.
You mentioned one word that I mentioned to Jack when we talked last summer, and that is you've met our producer Neil, who will deny, but he's a major car guy. He's also an engineer, fascinated by that. I'm a newcomer trying to learn more, and your show is certainly helping out a lot. But I said to Jack, say this to you, that you both have the qualifications and obviously the deep background, but you also make it a lot of fun, where you'll please someone like our producer Neil, but also won't get too above my pay grade or too into the weeds where I would lose the thread. That's something I really enjoy about what you guys do.
Well, thank you so much for saying so, because I think, whilst there are complete car fanatics out there, and that's amazing, and I love how people can have encyclopedic knowledge on specific model variants, etc. But equally, at the other end of the spectrum, everyone is impacted by cars. I mean, even if you think, I don't really like them, you still are going to use one or get in one at some point in your life. So it's really important that we make this as accessible and inclusive as possible.
A little more about your background in the advocacy category. You emphasize human-centric design and clean technology, aiming to, and I love this, to make complex topics accessible and debunk the information surrounding electric vehicles. I'm going to ask you a question now that I'm sure you have been, that's probably the number 2 question you're asked. And what is the number 1 inquiry or question when you're at conventions or getting contact through email and everything about electric vehicles? What is the number 1 question?
Ooh. So it depends. So if the question is coming from someone who's never got into an electric car in their life, they'll normally say something like, oh, they're too expensive and they don't have very good range. And I think, there's misinformation has a lot to answer for there. And I always say to those people, okay, well, maybe let's get in one and have a test drive, and then let's have another little discussion. For people who are in the industry, I think there's a lot of questions around who is really going to lead this transition, and what's the future of some of these legacy automotive brands, and people like BYD and the other companies coming from China. How is that going to influence the global market as well? So those are probably the 2 strands of conversation that end up happening.
Since we last saw you in September here in Vancouver, your whole crew, I think, was in Melbourne, back in London now. One of the things that struck me going to my first convention with you guys is that you're not seeing a lot of people dipping their toe in the water, for lack of a better phrase, and then saying nothing else. It seems to be, if you get a car, it seems to lead to other things, hence the reason there were so many different things, not just cars at the convention I was at. Do you find that in all the places that you take the Everything Electric show on the road?
Yes, it is the strangest thing. And, you know, when we come from the world of combustion, we're thinking about miles per gallon, perhaps, and that's probably where our sort of literacy around the energy that these vehicles consume stops. But when you have an electric car, you start talking about kilowatts, and you can understand that more kilowatts means that you can charge faster. You then kind of translate that to the number of kilowatt hours in your battery. You start to sort of make the links between kilowatts and kilowatt hours and energy consumption. And then you think, hang on a second, those aren't the only things that use kilowatts and kilowatt hours. So too can my house with solar and a battery and maybe a heat pump. And then suddenly there are all these opportunities where you're so a little bit more have greater literacy in these terms and think, hang on, I could save myself a lot of money if I could use my own solar to charge my car. So they become these things that can become very addictive because people can gamify how they consume energy in a way that can be really, really cost effective. And it's really fun watching people go on that journey.
You do so much stuff. You lecture, you speak. You've also got, tell the viewers a bit about your lifestyle podcast. I believe it's called Green Queens.
Yes, Green Queens. It's a lot of fun. And it's slightly less serious than some of the stuff that we do on the Fully Charged show. Well, everything electric cars and everything electric tech. So I started it with a fellow sustainability presenter called Abby Dewhurst, and her background is in climate. And we felt that there's a lot of stuff out there around sort of climate change and sustainability that can feel very doom and gloom, or it can feel very technical. And actually, we wanted to explore the things that we already love doing in our lives. For example, drinking wine perhaps, or going on holiday, or all of those fun things.
Yeah.
And think, how can those things also be made sustainable and they don't feel like these huge sacrifices? And it has been astonishing meeting just sensational people pioneering fantastic change and just showing and proving how much fun we can have as well. So one of the things that, you know, it was difficult to convince our husbands that this was work, but we went to a wedding in Portugal, and we went on the train from the UK all the way to Portugal via France and Spain in our zero carbon mission to get to a destination wedding.
That's so cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Just for people that are interested, tell them where they can find your show, which I believe is the #1 rated electrical show on YouTube. Where can people find that?
So on YouTube, you can search Everything Electric Cars for all of our stuff on cars, and you can search Everything Electric Tech for everything to do with clean energy and home energy and all that stuff. And Green Queens, you can find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube by searching Green Queens Podcast.
Hey, thank you for joining us again. I know it's a Friday night in London where you are, and if I were in London, I certainly wouldn't want to be talking to me at this time of the night, but thank you for doing that. It's Imogen Bhogal. Check out all she does, folks, and we will have a longer, extended version of this interview on our website, ourcitytonightTV.com. Imogen Bhogal, thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you back here, hopefully next September, with your convention show.
Well, thank you so much for having me.